In the quiet of my bedroom, surrounded by walls adorned with faded posters of pop stars I once idolized, I often found myself lost in thought. My name is Lisa, 29 years old, with dreams that once soared as high as the stars themselves. A pop star, I would whisper to my reflection, a young girl with stars in her eyes. But time, as it often does, brought me back to earth. One evening, as I sifted through old photographs and memories, my mother's voice broke through my reverie. "Lisa, when will I see my grandchild?" she asked, her tone laced with both hope and impatience. I smiled wistfully, tucking away the photos. "Mom, life isn't a fairy tale. Things change," I replied, feeling the weight of unfulfilled dreams. It was around that time that I met Jack. Our story began, as many do, through a mutual friend. On our first date, over coffee that was too bitter for my taste, Jack shared his own faded dreams. "I wanted to be in movies, you know," he said, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. "But look at me now, in a suit and tie every day." I laughed, finding comfort in our shared disillusionments. We're a pair, aren't we? Dreamers grounded by reality. As time passed, our relationship deepened, built on shared dreams and the reality of our lives. Jack, now a diligent worker at a prestigious trading company in downtown Manhattan, and I, a bank employee, found solace in each other's company. The day Jack proposed was unremarkable in every way but one. We were at my favorite park, the one with the willow trees. He didn't kneel. There was no grand gesture, just a simple, "Will you marry me, Lisa?" My answer was a whisper yes, filled with a mixture of love and an understanding of the life we were stepping into, a life far from the glitz and glamour we once dreamed of. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. It was during this time I got to know Jack's family better, especially his sister, Lucy. Lucy's story was a stark contrast to the frivolity of our wedding. As a child, she caught a fever that turned out to be encephalitis, leaving her bedridden and mute. I remember the first time I saw her. She was in a wheelchair, her eyes reflecting a world different from ours. My heart ached for her, for the life she was denied. "Lucy communicates with sign language," Jack had told me. "She's strong, stronger than any of us." In the months that followed, my visits to Jack's family became frequent. With each visit, my bond with Lucy grew. Her silence was filled with expressions, gestures, a language without sound but full of meaning. I found myself eagerly learning sign language, wanting to connect with her, to be her voice in a world that couldn't hear her. "Lucy, we're like best friends, aren't we?" I signed to her one day, my hands awkward but earnest. Her response was a slow, deliberate sign, "Yes, best friends." And in that moment, amidst the silent conversations and shared smiles, I found an unexpected friendship, one that transcended words. But little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would unravel in ways I could never have imagined. Life as Jack's wife was a mosaic of new experiences and adjustments. Our condo, a modest but cozy space, became a testament to our married life. The sounds of the bustling city below often blended with the melodies of our day-to-day routines. One morning, as I was arranging the living room, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jack. "Mom's visiting today. Heads up." I sighed, a mix of frustration and resignation washing over me. Jack's mother, a woman of strong opinions and an unyielding demeanor, had a way of making her presence felt. True to his word, the doorbell rang later that afternoon. I opened the door to find Jack's mother, her expression as stern as ever. "Lisa, I expect you to take care of Jack properly. Remember, a man's home is his sanctuary." "Yes, Mrs. Thompson," I replied, forcing a smile. As she made her way into our living room, her eyes scanned every corner, seeking out any imperfection. "You know, Lisa, a tidy home is a happy home. Make sure everything is in its place." I nodded, biting back a retort. Her visits were always a mix of unsolicited advice and thinly veiled critiques. Jack's relationship with his mother was complicated. He admired her but was also intimidated by her. Sometimes I wondered if he saw me through her eyes, measuring my worth as a wife by her standards. That evening, as Jack and I sat down for dinner, I broached the subject. "Jack, Your mom, she can be quite overwhelming. Do you think we could talk to her about giving us some space?" Jack looked uncomfortable, stirring his food more than necessary. "Lisa, she means well. She's just traditional. You know how she is." "I do, but it's our life, our marriage. We should be able to make our own rules," I argued, feeling a hint of frustration. Jack sighed, setting down his fork. "I'll talk to her, okay? Just give it some time." The conversation lingered in my mind, a reminder of the delicate balance I had to maintain in this new family dynamic. It was during one of my visits to Jack's parents' house that I really began to understand the depth of the family I had married into. Jack's father, a quiet, stoic man, was the polar opposite of his wife. He spent most of his time in his study or tending to the garden, a silent figure in the background of our family gatherings. Lucy, on the other hand, was a beacon of warmth. Despite her condition, she exuded a kind of resilience and joy that was infectious. Our bond grew stronger with each visit, our conversations a mix of signs and laughter. One day, as Lucy and I sat in her room, I signed, "Your mom is really hard on me sometimes." Lucy's hands moved swiftly, a sad smile on her face. "Mom is tough, always has been. But you're strong, Lisa." Her words, unspoken but clear, resonated with me. In Lucy's company, I found a kind of solidarity and understanding that was rare. As I left her room that day, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for Lucy's presence in my life. She was more than Jack's sister. She was a friend, a confidant, a reminder of the strength that lies in silence. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, my visits to Lucy became the highlights of my routine. Each visit was an escape into a world where words were unnecessary, and understanding came through the gentle dance of hands and expressions. One sunny afternoon, I found Lucy by the window, her eyes following the birds in flight. I approached her with a smile. "You seem deep in thought today, Lucy," I signed. Lucy turned to me, her eyes lighting up. "Just watching the birds. They look so free." Her words, conveyed through fluid motions, struck a chord in me. "Do you ever wish?" I started, but hesitated, not wanting to overstep. Lucy nodded, her expression thoughtful. "To fly? All the time. But there are different ways to fly, aren't there?" Her optimism, despite her circumstances, was both humbling and inspiring. It was moments like these that deepened the bond between us, transcending the usual sister-in-law relationship. During one of our sign language conversations, I asked her about her early memories before the illness. Lucy's hands painted vivid pictures of a carefree childhood, her face animated as she described her adventures. It was a glimpse into a world that was cruelly snatched away from her, yet she spoke of it without bitterness. The more time I spent with Lucy, the more I saw the stark contrast between her and her mother. Where Lucy was understanding and warm, her mother was critical and cold. The difference was baffling, and often left me pondering the dynamics of their family. One evening, Jack and I were having dinner when I decided to bring up Lucy. "Jack, have you ever thought about alternative therapies for Lucy? Maybe something that could improve her condition?" Jack paused, his fork midair. I don't know, Lisa. Mom handles everything about Lucy. She's always been protective of her. But maybe there's more that can be done, more that we haven't tried." I persisted, feeling a surge of hope. Jack put down his fork, a resigned look crossing his face. "Lisa, it's complicated. Mom has her way of dealing with Lucy's condition. She wouldn't be open to discussing it." I could sense the unspoken tensions, the delicate balance Jack maintained between his loyalty to his mother and his love for his sister. It was a topic we revisited several times, but each conversation ended the same way, with Jack's reluctance to challenge his mother's decisions. Despite the complexities, my relationship with Lucy continued to flourish. We shared a connection that was rare and precious, a bond forged in the quiet moments of understanding and empathy. In her, I found an unexpected friend, one who saw the world not through words, but through the heart. As I learned more about sign language, our conversations grew longer and more profound. Lucy became my window into a world where silence spoke volumes, and I cherished every moment of it. In her company, I found a sense of peace and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful connections are those that are unspoken. Life with Jack, which once felt like a shared journey, began to shift. The once frequent laughter and conversations slowly ebbed away, replaced by a silence that wasn't as comfortable as the one I shared with Lucy. I noticed changes in Jack that I couldn't ignore. One evening, as Jack returned home late, the familiar scent of alcohol lingered on him. "You're home late again," I remarked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Jack shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "Work, you know how it is. It's been hectic." I wanted to believe him, but the nagging doubt remained. "It's been like this for weeks, Jack. Is everything okay at work?" I asked, a hint of concern lacing my words. Jack's response was curt, a stark contrast to his usual demeanor. "Yes, everything's fine. Just tired, that's all." I watched him retreat to the living room, a sense of unease settling in my heart. The changes weren't just in his routine. The thoughtful gestures, the small acts of kindness that were once part of our daily life, had become rare. I missed the Jack who would surprise me with my favorite dessert or send a sweet text during the day. Now our conversations were mostly functional, lacking the warmth they once had. One Saturday morning, as we sat at the breakfast table, I decided to address the elephant in the room. "Jack, we need to talk. You've been distant lately, and it's not just about your late nights. Something's changed." Jack sighed, his fork pausing mid-air. "Lisa, I'm just really busy with work. That's all it is." "But it feels like more than that, Jack. It's like you're here, but not really here," I pressed, hoping for some honest communication. Jack's expression hardened slightly. "I don't know what you want me to say, Lisa. I'm working hard for us." The conversation ended there, with Jack retreating behind a wall of silence that I couldn't penetrate. The gap between us seemed to widen with each passing day. It wasn't just our marriage that felt the strain. Jack's relationship with his family, especially Lucy, seemed to be affected as well. He visited his parents less frequently, and on the few occasions he did, he would go alone, leaving me behind. Curious and somewhat concerned, I brought it up one evening. "Jack, you've been visiting your parents without me. Is there a reason I'm not invited anymore?" Jack avoided my eyes, focusing on something outside the window. "It's just family stuff, nothing important. You wouldn't enjoy it." His vague responses and avoidance tactics left me feeling more isolated. I couldn't shake off the feeling that Jack was keeping something from me, that there were secrets lurking beneath the surface of his words. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the man I married seemed to be fading away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. The loving, attentive Jack was now a stranger, cloaked in secrecy and late nights. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder where we were headed. The once clear path of our life together was now shrouded in uncertainty, and I felt adrift in a sea of unspoken words and hidden truths. The tension in our household had reached a point where our conversations were mere exchanges of necessities. It was during this strained period that Jack announced, quite unexpectedly, a family trip to Hawaii. "I think it's good for all of us." "A family trip," he said one evening, his tone unusually upbeat. I was taken aback. "That's sudden. But why now? You've been so busy." Jack shrugged, a hint of discomfort in his eyes. "Just thought it'd be nice. A break for everyone." The idea of a vacation, under normal circumstances, would have been exciting. But given the recent coldness in our relationship, it felt disjointed. However, the real shock came the next day. Jack's mother called me, her voice brimming with authority. "Lisa, about the Hawaii trip. You'll be staying here to take care of Lucy." I was speechless for a moment. "I'm not going to Hawaii. It's better this way. You and Lucy get along well. She'll be comfortable with you," she stated matter-of-factly. I felt a mix of emotions, hurt, anger, and confusion. Why was I being excluded? And why was it being decided for me? But part of me felt relieved to not be going under the current strained circumstances. That night, I confronted Jack. "Why am I not going to Hawaii with you? And why did I have to hear it from your mother?" Jack avoided my gaze. "It's just complicated. You know how Mom is. She thought it would be better. But we're a married couple. Shouldn't we make these decisions together?" I argued, feeling a growing sense of injustice. Jack sighed, a sign that the conversation was over for him. It's just how it is, Lisa. Feeling a mixture of betrayal and resignation, I decided to make the best of the situation. I started planning activities and outings for Lucy and me. It would be a staycation of sorts, and I was determined to make it as enjoyable as possible for both of us. A few days before the family was set to leave for Hawaii, I visited Lucy. I told her about the plan, expecting her to be upset. But to my surprise, she smiled. "Let's make our own fun, Lisa," she signed, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Her resilience and positive attitude were infectious. For the first time in weeks, I felt a genuine smile cross my face. "Yes, let's do that. We'll have our own adventure." As I left Lucy's room that day, a plan began to form in my mind. Maybe this was an opportunity, a chance to break away from the growing unhappiness and rediscover a sense of joy, even if it was in a small way. Lucy and I, in our silent world, would create our own memories, unfettered by the complexities that had entangled my life. The day Jack and his family left for Hawaii marked the beginning of what I expected to be a quiet, albeit lonely, week. I arrived at Jack's parents' house with a bag full of movies, board games, and a plan to make the best of the situation with Lucy. But what awaited me there was something I could never have anticipated. As I entered Lucy's room, expecting to see her in bed as always, I was met with an astonishing sight. Lucy was standing by the window, her back to me, looking out at the garden. "Lucy." My voice was barely a whisper, disbelief coloring every syllable. She turned around, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. "Surprised," she said aloud, her voice clear and strong. I stood frozen, my mind struggling to process the scene before me. "You can talk?" "And walk," I stammered, each word laced with shock. Lucy nodded, her smile widening. "For about a year now, I've been practicing, getting stronger. But I had to keep it a secret." A secret? But why? The questions tumbled out of me, each one echoing my confusion and amazement. Lucy motioned for me to sit down, and she began to explain. "It's a long story. My family, well, it's complicated. My dad and mom are actually my stepmom and dad. Jack and my other sister are my half-siblings." I listened, riveted as Lucy unfolded a tale of family secrets and hidden truths. She spoke of her stepmother's indifference towards her and her father's guilt that kept him distant. How she had started regaining her abilities but chose to hide them, fearing the disruption it would cause in the fragile family dynamics. "I started to improve after a therapy I tried secretly," Lucy continued. "But I realized if I revealed my progress, everything would change. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that." I was overwhelmed by the depth of her story, the strength she possessed to carry such a secret. "Lucy, I don't even know what to say. You're incredible." Lucy's expression turned serious. "But there's more, Lisa. I know things about Jack, about why he's been acting strange." My heart skipped a beat. "Jack." Lucy nodded solemnly. "He's been coming here, not to visit me or our parents, but to meet someone. A woman." The room seemed to spin as her words sank in. The late nights, the distance, it all began to make a cruel kind of sense. "A woman? Are you sure?" "Yes, I've seen them together." "I'm sorry, Lisa." I felt a myriad of emotions crashing over me: betrayal, sadness, anger. But amidst it all, there was a strange sense of clarity. The pieces of the puzzle were finally fitting together, revealing a picture I had been too afraid to see. "Thank you, Lucy," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside, "for telling me the truth. We need to figure out what to do next." Lucy reached out, taking my hand in hers. "We'll figure this out together. You're not alone in this." As I sat there, holding Lucy's hand, I realized that this was a turning point. The truth, as painful as it was, had set in motion a series of events that I could no longer ignore. I had to confront Jack, confront the reality of our marriage. But I wouldn't do it alone. I had Lucy, and together, we were stronger than any secret, any betrayal. The days following the revelation were a whirlwind of emotions. I spent most of my time with Lucy, who had become not just a friend, but a pillar of strength in the chaos of my life. Yet the thought of confronting Jack about his betrayal loomed over me like a dark cloud. The day Jack returned from Hawaii, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. He entered the house with a casual, "I'm back," as if nothing had changed. I took a deep breath, steadying my nerves. "We need to talk, Jack." Jack, sensing the seriousness in my tone, frowned. "What's wrong, Lisa?" "It's about us, Jack. About our marriage," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I know about the woman you've been seeing." Jack's expression shifted from confusion to defensiveness. "What are you talking about? There's no one else." "Don't lie to me, Jack. Lucy saw you. She's been able to walk and talk for a year now. She saw you with her," I said, the words pouring out in a rush of anger and hurt. Jack's face paled, the truth hitting him like a physical blow. "Lisa, I can explain." "Explain what, Jack?" "That you've been lying to me. That you've been cheating on me while pretending everything was fine." My voice cracked, the pain and betrayal I felt evident in my words. Jack ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration. "It's not that simple, Lisa. I was lost, confused. I never meant to hurt you." "Lost? Confused? That's your excuse for betraying our marriage." I couldn't hide the bitterness in my voice. "It wasn't planned. It just happened. I didn't know how to tell you," Jack tried to explain, his voice a mix of remorse and desperation. "But you chose to continue it, Jack. You chose her over our marriage," I said, the finality in my voice reflecting the decision forming in my heart. Jack took a step towards me, his expression one of regret. "Lisa, please, let's talk about this. We can fix it." I shook my head, a sense of clarity washing over me. "There's nothing left to fix, Jack. You broke it beyond repair." The room fell silent, the weight of our broken marriage hanging heavy in the air. Jack looked as if he wanted to say more, but no words came. Instead, he simply stood there, a picture of defeat and regret. That night, I lay in bed, the events of the day replaying in my mind. The pain of Jack's betrayal was sharp, but alongside it was a feeling of liberation. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of control over my life. The next morning, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and deceit. I needed to move on, to find myself again after being lost in the shadow of a relationship that was no longer real. As I packed my bags, Jack watched in silence, the reality of our separation sinking in. "I'm sorry, Lisa," he said, his voice low and filled with regret. I looked at him, a mix of sadness and resolve in my eyes. "Goodbye, Jack." With that, I walked out of the door, leaving behind the life I once knew, ready to face a new beginning, uncertain but hopeful. The road ahead was unclear, but I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer bound by the chains of a loveless marriage. I was free to rediscover who I was, and that journey started now. In the days following my departure from Jack, I found refuge in Lucy's company. Our conversations, once limited to gestures and signs, now flowed freely with words. It was during one of these conversations that Lucy proposed a daring plan. "Lisa, let's go to Hawaii," she said with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Hawaii? But why?" I asked, puzzled by her sudden suggestion. Lucy's smile widened. "To confront Jack and his family. To show them I can walk and talk. To show them we're not the people they thought we were." The idea was bold, almost reckless, but it ignited a spark within me. After years of being in the shadows, of being underestimated, it was time to take a stand. "All right, let's do it. Let's go to Hawaii," I agreed, a sense of empowerment washing over me. We made our arrangements in secret, relishing the element of surprise. As we boarded the plane to Hawaii, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This trip was more than just a confrontation. It was a declaration of our newfound strength. Upon arriving in Hawaii, we headed straight to the resort where Jack's family was staying. As we walked through the lobby, Lucy looked at me and whispered, "Ready?" I nodded, my heart racing. "Let's do this." We found Jack and his family at a beachside restaurant. They were laughing and talking, oblivious to our presence. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to their table with Lucy by my side. "Hello, Jack," I said, my voice steady. Jack's head snapped up, his expression a mix of shock and disbelief. "Lisa? "What are you doing here?" And "Lucy, you're walking." The entire table went silent, all eyes on us. Jack's mother stood up, her face a mask of confusion. "Lucy, how is this possible?" Lucy smiled, a confident, radiant smile. "I've been able to walk and talk for a year now. I just never showed you." The revelation sent a ripple of shock through the table. Jack's father looked at Lucy, a mixture of pride and regret in his eyes. "Why didn't you tell us, Lucy?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion. Lucy's gaze was unwavering. "Because I didn't want to be a part of the lies and secrets that bind this family." The air was thick with tension, each person grappling with the truth that had been unveiled. I turned to Jack, who was still staring at me in disbelief. "Jack, I came here to say goodbye in person. Our marriage is over," I said, the finality in my voice echoing the resolve in my heart. Jack reached out, as if to say something, but I turned away. "Goodbye, Jack. I hope you find what you're looking for." With that, Lucy and I walked away, leaving behind the stunned faces of Jack and his family. As we exited the restaurant, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I had faced my past, spoken my truth, and now it was time to move forward. Lucy and I spent the rest of our time in Hawaii exploring the island, embracing the freedom and strength we had found in each other. It was a time of healing, of rediscovery, and of new beginnings. As the plane took off, heading back home, I looked out the window, the vast ocean stretching out below. I was leaving behind a chapter of my life, but I was also flying towards a new horizon, one filled with possibilities and hope. The journey ahead was mine to shape, and I was ready for whatever came next. Back from Hawaii, Lucy and I were filled with a sense of triumph and liberation. Yet there was still one final act to complete in this drama, confronting Jack's family with the full truth. Lucy had devised a plan, and I agreed to support her. We invited Jack's family to a dinner under the guise of a peaceful reconciliation. The venue was a quaint restaurant with a cozy ambience, perfect for our purpose. As we waited for them to arrive, Lucy turned to me, her eyes determined. "This is it, Lisa. Are you ready?" she asked. I nodded, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. "Yes, let's do this." Jack's family arrived, looking a mix of curious and apprehensive. They greeted us cautiously, unsure of what to expect. Once everyone was seated, Lucy took a deep breath and began. "I've brought you all here to reveal something important." Jack's mother, still looking puzzled, urged her to continue. "What is it, Lucy?" Lucy looked each of them in the eye before speaking. "I've been able to walk and talk for over a year. I kept it hidden because I didn't want to be part of the lies and deception that have been part of this family for too long." The revelation hit them like a wave. Jack's father looked stunned, his eyes reflecting a mix of pride and regret. Jack, who had been silent since our arrival, lowered his gaze, unable to meet our eyes. "But why keep it a secret, Lucy?" Jack's father finally asked, his voice filled with emotion. Lucy's response was calm but firm. "Because I saw how Lisa was being treated, how she was being lied to. I couldn't stand by and watch it happen." Jack's mother, visibly shaken, turned to me. "Lisa, I had no idea." "It's not just about what you knew or didn't know," I said, my voice steady. "It's about the choices we make and the consequences they bring." There was a heavy silence as the weight of our words hung in the air. Jack finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, Lisa, for everything." His apology, though sincere, felt empty. The damage was done, and there was no going back. The dinner ended shortly after, with Jack's family leaving in a somber mood. As Lucy and I walked out of the restaurant, she squeezed my hand. "We did it, Lisa. We finally set the truth free," she said, a sense of relief evident in her voice. "Yes, we did," I replied, feeling a sense of closure. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, but also the strength and courage I had found in myself and in Lucy. It was the end of a chapter, but also the beginning of a new one. A chapter where I was the author of my own story. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter, as if a burden had been lifted off my shoulders. I was ready to start anew, to rebuild my life on my terms. With Lucy by my side, I felt unstoppable. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape, and I was filled with hope for what lay ahead. The weeks following the dinner were a time of profound change and introspection. Lucy and I, having confronted our past, were now focused on building our futures. I decided to start by finding a new job, a step towards regaining my independence. One afternoon, while sitting in a cafe updating my resume, I received a call from Jack's father. His voice was weary but kind. "Lisa, can we meet? I have something important to discuss with you." Curious and a little apprehensive, I agreed to meet him the next day at the same cafe. Sitting across from Jack's father, I saw a man who seemed to have aged years in just a few weeks. "Lisa, I wanted to apologize, personally, for everything that has happened, and I wanted to tell you something about Jack." I listened, my guard up. "What about Jack?" He's been struggling since the divorce. He realizes now what he's lost, and he's not taking it well," he said, a note of sadness in his voice. I felt a pang of something, not quite regret, but not indifference either. I hope he finds his way, but that path doesn't include me anymore. Jack's father nodded, understanding. "I know, and I respect that. I also wanted to offer you something, a token of my appreciation for all you've done for Lucy." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, a generous amount that took me by surprise. "I can't accept this," I said, pushing it back towards him. "Please take it. Consider it a small help for your new start. You've been like a daughter to me, and I regret not standing up for you sooner," he insisted. After a moment's hesitation, I accepted. "Thank you," I said, truly grateful for his gesture. Leaving the cafe, I felt a mix of emotions. Sadness for what could have been, but also a deep sense of freedom and possibility. A few days later, Lucy and I moved into a new apartment. It was small but filled with light and promise. We decided to celebrate our new beginning with a small housewarming party, inviting a few close friends. As our friends filled the apartment with laughter and chatter, Lucy pulled me aside. "Look at this, Lisa. This is our new beginning, our choice, our freedom." I smiled, looking around at the happy faces. Yes, it is. And it's just the start. Later that night, after the last guest had left, Lucy and I sat on the balcony, looking up at the stars. "What's next for us, Lisa?" Lucy asked, her eyes reflecting the night sky. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace and anticipation. Whatever we want it to be, new challenges, new adventures. We write our own story now. Lucy nodded, a content smile on her face. Together. As we sat there, basking in the tranquility of the night, I realized that this was more than just a new chapter. It was a whole new book, a story of resilience, of finding strength in the face of adversity, and of the unbreakable bond between friends. The future was unwritten, a canvas waiting for us to paint our dreams and aspirations. And for the first time in a long while, I was excited for the unknown, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. With Lucy by my side, I knew we could face anything. Our journey was just beginning, and it was going to be a beautiful one.